so for another year, the FJ is going to be my primary traveling vehicle. So I decided to have the FJ tuned because honestly, I didn't know that they could be tuned. And I guess it depends on the 07 to 09 models if it will really hook up. So we're going to find out. He's on his way right now. And we're going to hook up to this thing and we're just going to see what we can get done with it. Fingers crossed that we can tune it. It'll make it more responsive for going up the passes. Even though it may not be the best idea because it is an old vehicle. It's like 225,000 miles now. But I'm willing to risk it. So anyway, I'm gonna get this thing tuned. It's gonna increase the throttle response. It's gonna maybe give it a little more power. Hello, sir. There he is right there. Okay, guys, so this is Luke Smith from High Country Tuning, and he basically travels all over. I've seen you've gone to Junction, you've gone to Colorado Springs.
I mostly cover the western slope in general, and then there's another tuner who I work with on the Front Range, Colorado Toyota Tuning. And so we just kind of like, we help each other out, but I get the western part and he gets the eastern part of the state, And
I'll put all of his information below for any of you guys on the western slope. You can figure all that out by following the links and going to the websites and stuff. You can follow him on social media, and I'll also put those links, I'll drop them right here, and then you guys can check that out. And then I will go over how this tune performs as I'm driving this thing, because I've been driving this for 13 years, and so I'll have pretty good feedback on how this thing feels.
So what I'm gonna do is hook up the computer to your OBD2 port down here to access your ECU through that. Then I'll be using HP Tuners, which is a tuning platform, and work with another tuner actually via Overland Tailor Tuning to adjust, because there are some other people who like know the secret sauce. I rely on the expertise of some other tuners who've been doing this for decades already. And that's the magic of the internet, is being able to do that. It's okay to tune with electronics hooked up and everything, but have you had any electrical gremlins?
Nope.
Anything like that?
It's all on a house battery, and that's all disconnected with a relay.
Okay, great, yep, because that keeps it much safer as long as all the electronics are working well, and then I'll hook up the battery tender to maintain a nice constant charge during the tune
for sure
as well. Yep.
Cool.
It's like starting an airplane. Yep, so the first thing that I'm going to do is just get a read on the current settings of the ECU. And once we get that read, just to see how everything's working right now, we have some like known parameters to help. That we've been tuning a lot of 4.0 liter engines with Toyotas for a while. And so we have these known parameters, and that's the base tune that we adjust everything to for the most part. And we can see how it's been working already and kind of, you know, customize it just that teeny bit for your vehicle. But for a fully custom one, we would have to go on several rounds of computer plugged in, logging data during the drive, and then adjust everything afterwards. You just got the stock read from your ECU, and that's going off to some of the other tuners who I work with right now. To take a look at it, see how healthy the engine is and everything, and make those adjustments for the base tune calibration. We can adjust it almost like a pedal commander is a throttle enhancer. So you press it, it goes, helps you push the gas harder, faster. The tune is going to adjust everything for better torque, for better horsepower. We have access to the transmission to help with shifting and everything as well. So we can dial in your larger tires with that. But when it comes to throttle, a lot of that depends on how much weight you're carrying and the larger tires. So for the most, for you, it looks like you're going to want a stronger throttle setting. But also we are in the mountains in Colorado, so you probably don't want something where you're going to be spinning your tires all the time in the winter. So of 3 different throttle settings, we'll say, where 1 is stronger than stock, but is very manageable. 2 is going to be a lot more get up and go. And if you had a stock vehicle, 2 might be too much. 3 is for those, throttle monsters that you really want. So either 1, which will be stronger than stock, or 2, because you have bigger tires and a little bit of extra weight. Do you have a preference there for your driving style?
Maybe 2, because like this thing is extremely heavy. So I wouldn't mind that. And so, yeah, let's go with 2.
Sure, and I'll have all those different variations available. So in the future, we can just meet up and I can install a different throttle setting if you decide that you want it changed. And that's a free meetup. We just have to find time to make it happen.
So once you get it to Overland Tailor Tune, any adjustments in the future, you schedule it, and then those are free, unless you're upgrading, of course.
So just adjustments, like if you were to re-gear or something like that, get some massive tires on it, then we can make those adjustments for free in the future, no problem. But yeah, if there's like a full upgrade of a tune
Yeah.
kind of a thing, or if you want to customize it, then there's going to be an additional fee
Okay,
to go
for
along
sure.
with it.
Okay,
Yep.
just so these guys know, of course.
It'll liven it up and make it so much more fun.
Yeah.
You know, for all the extra money that you've put into it with the weight and aftermarket components and stuff, it's fun to like, hey, let's add a little bit more for the performance
Right,
too, as
cool.
opposed to like everything that's going to bog it down
Yeah.
and make it slower. Yeah.
It's definitely slow.
And the general goal of the tune is to have some more torque and horsepower available, you know, throughout the RPM range. So it's not this crazy peak where it's like, hey, 25 extra horsepower at 5,000 RPM, because who wants to drive like that,
Right,
you know?
definitely.
So instead, it's like a 5 to 10 horsepower and torque
Yeah.
improvement throughout the entire RPM.
Yeah,
band.
which is way more useful.
Yep. Yeah. So it has that daily driver in mind, but let's make it peppier. Let's add some performance to
Right.
it without being over the top.
So on the MPG improvements, I know that's what a lot of people are going to be wondering about.
Mm-hmm.
And is that mostly with stock vehicles, I would assume, when they see that kind of stuff?
And that one, there are so many variables when it comes to MPGs that
Right.
I won't make any hard claims about
Right,
it.
of course.
Except that pretty much everyone sees at least a slight increase.
Okay.
Some people do see a pretty good increase, like 1 or 2 miles per gallon.
Right.
But most people come in with
half
that
or something.
expectation of the same to a half.
It's going to be a
And-
Prius now,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. All of a sudden you're going to get 40 miles per gallon.
for sure.
And sometimes it's actually the heavier vehicles that have a lot to gain for that for MPGs,
Okay.
because it has the stock calibration for the tune right now. You're adding all this weight, you're adding bigger tires and everything, and that's not what the stock calibration is set for.
Okay.
So now that you're getting the tune, you might actually see some improvement in that.
Awesome.
Because the tune is going to compensate for
Okay.
it a lot. Mhm.
And then you had mentioned too that the FJs sometimes have issues hooking up.
Yeah, so FJs, they're, I'll say like they're not as uniform compared to other other Toyotas,
Yeah.
where it's like all of this year is all of this ECU calibration. All of this year is a different ECU calibration. And FJs are just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So we don't really know what to expect until we actually plug in
Okay.
and get a read on it. And yours, like the 2007s for the most part, discovered we can tune that, a lot of 2008s as well. And it's a lot of the other years, like we're just
Weird.
not sure until I
Okay.
actually plug in and see if I can read it or not, because the ECUs just aren't as uniform.
Okay, so yeah, in that situation, obviously just call him up, he'll hook up, and if you can't tune it, then you can't tune it.
Yeah,
Simple as that.
it's disappointing, but
I'm
it is what
excited
it
about
is.
it,
Yeah. So yep, we're using HP tuners right now, and with the file, once the program's open, it's nothing fancy looking, but we just tell it to write the ECU. Once we buy the credits from HP tuners to access your ECU, and hit the right button. And now it's just going to take a couple of minutes as it flashes over top of your current settings. And it also updates to the most recent version of the Toyota software as well. So there will be no reason for Toyota, for any reason in the future, to potentially reflash
Okay.
your ECU and lose the tune
Wipe
or
it
anything
out?
like that. Yeah.
So will this also calibrate for my speedometer for tire size?
This does not do that.
Okay.
Yep, we're unable to do that via the ECU flash. It'd
Okay.
be a piece of hardware that you would have to add in.
Gotcha.
You turned the chime off on this thing.
Oh yeah.
Usually I know how long I have to wait because I count the number of chimes before I turn the ignition back on.
Oh
Your
boy.
tune is installed. Every once in a while, don't be too scared.
I won't be.
After cycling through and flashing an ECU, you do have to crank on it a couple of times or cycle through the ignition a couple of times
Okay.
before it starts. Not this one though. All right.
Old trusty.
Now you got a new vehicle ready to go.
I hope so. I'm excited.
Yeah, and that's weird. Like, nothing sounds different. It won't act differently until you actually get in and drive it now.
Okay.
You know?
Right on.
And that's everything.
Right on, man. That was way quicker than I just
Yeah.
figured it'd take like an hour or something.
No, the custom tunes do take about an hour.
Okay.
Because then for that amount of time that I that we waited for adjustments to be made and everything, we'd have to do that 2 or 3 times after going on a drive and logging data to see how it goes.
Okay.
And the custom tunes work especially well for people with like an aftermarket intake or exhaust or headers, those kind of performance modifications. Whereas the base tune is great for just larger tires or re-gear or something like that, just to add a little pep to it.
Okay.
But if you have those aftermarket performance components, then the custom tune really helps you take advantage of those.
Okay, cool. Is there a time that the ECU needs to learn anything after this to where like it will make some adjustments on its own?
With the FJ, a little bit older components, so it's not quite as smart as like a third gen Tacoma or something like that.
Dumb.
Yeah. And so like it has some learning to do, and and there's a lot that we can do with the ECU, but you're not gonna have to go through as much of a learning phase as like when I tune a third gen Tacoma. I'm like, give it 500 miles or so.
Okay,
There's some quirks. Yeah.
Okay.
And here, you might want to give it a couple hundred miles, but by the time you reach 500 miles, everything should be settled down. And if you notice anything weird, let me know, and we'll log data like this, get some information, and make sure everything's working as well as it can for your specific vehicle.
Awesome. Yeah, so that took about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. He said normally when people aren't following him around with cameras and stuff, it's 20 minutes. I was harassing him the whole time. But yeah, I'm excited to drive this thing, and I will document that. I'm gonna let him go home because he was nice enough to come late at night after my shift, and I will let you guys know what happens after that. And Luke, I really appreciate you coming out, man. And I hope some other people get calling you. I will put all of his information below. His Instagram. You have a website as well? Your own website?
Just highcountrytuning.com.
Okay. And I've seen a lot of reports on like the Tacoma groups on Facebook that they are very happy with what he's putting into their computer systems, and so or with their tunes, I guess I should say. And so anyway, I'm excited to check this thing out because I know the FJs really aren't that common to get tuned yet, are they?
That's true. Yep, FJs are really popular for off-roading, but there's just not that many of them out there, so there's not that many that actually get tuned. So I'm excited to hear your feedback about that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just know that in Colorado in general, there's a huge FJ crowd.
Yeah.
So I looked up videos earlier and I couldn't find that there were videos about this on the FJs yet. So anyway, for all you FJ guys, and I will put this on the FJ Facebook group, and so hopefully you get some calls on that. But yeah, I'll have a full report, sir. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, let me know how it goes. I'm always happy to answer more questions, take some more time. It's interesting for me too, so I don't mind putting the time in.
All right, so Luke got out of here. I'm just gonna drive this on my own. He did offer to drive along with me to see if anything was going on. That is an option, but because he was nice enough to come here so late, I didn't wanna hold him up anymore. So I'm gonna drive this on my own and see how it is today and see how it is tomorrow. And then I will let you guys know some feedback on what I think of this thing. And I'm very excited because, again, I've driven this thing for 13 years, 14 years maybe, and I'm so used to how it drives. And I don't drive fast, I'm not crazy, but I mostly wanted the extra power and the extra throttle for being on the trail, really. The big thing with a lot of the newer vehicles to know, and I've read this is not Luke saying this, this is me saying this, but on the Facebook groups, I've seen that when you take these things in to the dealership, it's basically not noticeable by the dealership. And so you don't really have to worry about that. And I've even heard of some tuners, if you ask them to, if you got to go in and have warranty work, they'll come in and remove the tune, and then you can go in and get warranty work. Some of you might be able to correct me on how that works. But anyway, that's my knowledge on the matter. So I'm gonna close the FJ up, get my camera stuff together, and I'm gonna go on my first drive, which won't be as exciting as I want it to be because there is snow out there. Okay, so I've been using the Overland Tailor Tune. I think I've had it for like a month now. And I was reserving my judgment on it just because right away I could tell that there was something different about the FJ, but I just wanted to really use the thing and travel a little bit, which I haven't traveled very far. So my fuel economy hasn't really changed much as far as I can monitor because I only drive like 5 miles to work. And so it's all pretty much town driving, so my fuel economy is always horrible. So I'll have to judge that once I go to Utah or something like that. But for now, I will say that even with my old 2007 FJ Cruiser, when I pulled out onto the snow, I was in 4-wheel drive and I was just driving like I normally would. I wasn't romping on it, and I noticed right away that the tires were spinning, and it's noticeable how much more it gives you sooner. There's that delay is completely gone, kind of like what a pedal commander or something would do. And so that delay is gone. There isn't a noticeable amount of power from my experience, but I think that's because, you know, I have a very heavy FJ Cruiser, so I'm not surprised. Now, the shifting is better. I never thought the shifting was particularly bad, but it is far improved. So it is very noticeable that you have power sooner and you do have better shifting parameters. Now, I did go camping and we went on a snowy trail, and one thing I can say is the benefit of having that throttle sooner is great, except for when you're used to driving something like I am for this long. It does make it a little squirrely, and it took me probably a month or so, and it'll probably actually take me even a little bit longer to get used to driving it on the snow and ice. The winter probably wasn't the best time I could have done it, just because it's noticeable how much easier it can slip now, as the delay before would kind of give me a buffer if I thought the thing was starting to spin or something like that. No, you're not going to feel like you got supercharged or something like that, of course, but it does greatly improve it. I don't know that my experience is as improved as something like a 3rd gen Tacoma, because they're notoriously bad at shifting, and the Overland Tailor Tune is supposed to dramatically improve that. So the FJ isn't terrible in the first place, but I did notice an improvement, and I think my tune cost me $550. You can go the extra step and pay an extra $100, in which case he will get in the seat and you hook it up to the OBD2 port and you drive down the road and he'll tune it from there and kind of fine tune things that are going on. I haven't done a really long run to Denver or anything like that, but from my limited experience just driving the local area, it is better at shifting, going up hills and stuff, and it feels like I can get to speed faster. I've always been somebody who drives pretty slow, but now when I'm in traffic on my way to work, I do notice that it catches right up and I'm keeping up with traffic a little bit easier. The vehicle doesn't feel as heavy as it did before. I guess that's a good way to say it. So anyway, it's not a rocket ship, but it did improve things. I do think that it was worth it, and I wish that I would have known about this stuff sooner, or at least had the means to do it sooner. But it seemed like a pretty good upgrade. So I'll leave all the information on the Overland Tailor Tune below the website, and you can get a hold of Luke on there. And he does the entire Western Slope. And so I hope this was helpful to somebody. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.